Navigating the intersection of the web and cold cases often feels like walking through a psychological minefield. Bizarre conspiracies, fueled by a desperate search for non-existent patterns, frequently trigger a wave of eccentric yet well-intentioned conjecture. Yet, certain enigmas remain impenetrable without the intervention of these unconventional digital collectives. Today, we analyze 3 instances where virtual detectives successfully dismantled the walls of long-standing cold cases. 59-year-old Donnie Irwin vanished from southern Camden County, Missouri, around 9:30 on the morning of December 29, 2013. The veteran was operating his silver 2002 Hyundai Elantra at the time. Witnesses last recalled him dressed in a blue jacket, denim pants, and gray footwear. Physical identifiers included a missing left lower limb and a prominent surgical mark spanning his left forearm. After stepping out for tobacco, the Vietnam veteran simply evaporated. For 10 years, the trail remained frozen, devoid of any forensic breakthroughs. Eventually, the silence surrounding his fate was shattered. A decade later, in 2023, content creator James Hinkle turned his analytical lens toward the mystery. Deploying aerial drones, Hinkle scanned local reservoirs for the skeletal outline of a sunken vehicle while hunting for the missing diver. Despite utilizing kayaks, personal dives, and specialized sonar equipment, the depths initially yielded no secrets. Roughly 9 months into his exhaustive private operation, Hinkle pinpointed a target while piloting his drone over a private pond 3.5 miles from the Irwin residence. A massive silhouette beneath the surface caught his eye, prompting an immediate report to local law enforcement. Recovery teams soon extracted a Hyundai from the silt, confirming the plates were registered to the missing veteran. Yet, even with the vehicle recovered, the 59-year-old's whereabouts remained a haunting question. 5 days later, on Christmas Eve, recovery specialists in K-9 units located biological remains alongside a prosthetic hip. The medical hardware was quickly linked to the missing man's surgical history. Authorities awaited formal laboratory confirmation, though they were privately certain the search for Irwin had concluded. His sibling, Yvonne Owen Bowen, shared the devastating update online, describing the experience as an emotionally exhausting ordeal. She reflected later that while she sensed his passing, the physical confirmation brought a fresh, agonizing layer of grief. Although the distinction between a tragic accident and a final choice remains blurred, his sister suspects the latter, pointing toward the heavy news he received just before disappearing. Faced with the loss of his remaining limb, she believes he chose to exit rather than become a perceived weight on others. Knowledge of the truth brought her little comfort. She dismissed the concept of closure, insisting that finding a loved one doesn't answer the unanswerable questions of why. We shift now to the case of Crystal Theobald. In February 2006, violence claimed the life of Crystal Theobald in Aranza, California. The 24-year-old mother of 2 was caught in a senseless crossfire. While traveling through the 6600 block of Geranium Place, her vehicle was ambushed by gunmen positioned near a parked SUV. Investigators later identified the shooters as gang affiliates who had misidentified their targets. The assailants wrongly assumed Crystal, her partner Juan Patlin, and her brother Justin were members of a competing faction. A fatal shot struck Crystal in the head, while Juan suffered a severe wound to his torso. Surveillance cameras captured Justin's desperate attempt to save her, showing him cradling his sister outside a local shop while begging for aid. 2 days later, Crystal succumbed to her injuries, though Juan managed to survive following emergency medical intervention. Physically, Justin emerged from the hail of bullets without injury. The attackers, belonging to the 5150 gang, had been hunting a rival vehicle before losing their way in the neighborhood. They mistook Juan's car for their target, unleashing a lethal barrage based purely on a tragic resemblance. Driven by grief, Belinda Lane and her cousin Jaime launched a private shadow investigation to find the killers. The pair engineered a digital trap, establishing fictitious profiles on the social networking site MySpace. Using Crystal's image under an alias, they sought to infiltrate the inner circle of the 5150 gang. Their objective was to secure evidence for a conviction, a plan that succeeded when Belinda engaged a member named William Sotelo. This individual was eventually revealed as the driver and owner of the SUV involved in the fatal shooting. Belinda eventually shared their dialogue with detectives, who utilized the details to bring Sotelo in for questioning. During his interrogation, he implicated Julio Herodia, identifying him as the gunman who executed Crystal. At that point, forensic evidence connecting Sotelo to the scene was non-existent, necessitating his release by police. He subsequently fled to California, successfully evading law enforcement for more than a decade. Authorities caught him in Mexico in 2020, farming chilies after Belinda tracked him via Facebook tips. Before his capture, investigators had already tied 2 other gang associates to the homicide. These suspects were identified as siblings William and Manuel Lemus. Their eventual cooperation provided the critical evidence needed to secure Herodia's murder conviction. In a legal compromise, the brothers avoided charges while Herodia received life without parole. 10 additional gang members were eventually tried and convicted for their involvement in the shooting. Their varied crimes resulted in sentences ranging from simple probation to 18 years of incarceration. Throughout the investigation, Belinda personally pursued several leads, often making direct contact with suspects. She and Jamie directed threats toward individuals, some of whom possessed no connection to the tragedy. In a filmed interview, Belinda confessed to dark fantasies of personally executing the entire gang. Her psychological state was defined by a volatile mixture of profound grief and intense fury. She told reporters she was a shattered wreck, consumed by rage, sorrow, and a loss of will. This same vengeful energy sustained her long search and her calculated interactions with Sotelo. She acknowledges that without his coerced cooperation, the department might never have closed Crystals. Fell. Cheryl Anne McMillan. On June 8, 1968, a woman's body was found in Los Angeles. She lay across a picnic table near Mount Hollywood Drive, dressed in a bikini and overcoat. Though petite with blonde hair and manicured features, her identity remained a complete mystery. Investigators struggled to progress, as the victim carried no identifying documents or personal effects. Detectives pursued a thin lead involving the Hollywood Land Motel and the pseudonym Cheryl Miller. A gold wedding band engraved with CB to EJ 9420 remained the primary clue. The unidentified woman had succumbed to what appeared to be a fatal drug overdose. Unable to verify her name, the coroner officially designated her as Jane Doe 18. For decades, the trail went cold, and she remained a nameless victim in the city's archives. In 2010, artist Carl Koppelman created a digital facial reconstruction of the mysterious woman. This Griffith Park Jane Doe image eventually drew the attention of Rita Ellen Hood in 2016. That July, Rita discovered the reconstruction on her Facebook feed while taking a break from her workday. Having previously worked with Carl, Rita was moved to investigate the tragic details of the case. The engraved date on the wedding ring, September 4th, immediately resonated as it was Rita's birthday. Obsessed with the coincidence, Rita began scouring historical marriage databases on Ancestry.com. She targeted records where the initials and wedding dates aligned with the inscription on the ring. Her search prioritized common names from that era, starting with E, like Elizabeth or Edna. She filtered for women with J surnames, who married men with CB initials in 1920. For 1 month, Rita spent her nights analyzing archives after her children had gone to sleep. 4 weeks in, she matched Edna Lydia J. to Charles J. Bush in 1920 Detroit. Edna had died in 1932 at 30, survived by 2 young daughters. Further genealogical tracing revealed that one daughter, Geraldine Bush, had moved through several marriages. Geraldine's final recorded marriage was to a man named John Paul Manzo in 1960. Rita located a John Manzo Jr. in California through social media and reached out. On September 9th, she sent a message, waiting days to confirm a potential link to Geraldine. On September 11th, John identified Geraldine as his mother and Edna as his grandmother. Rita questioned him regarding his grandmother's wedding ring, which was discovered on an unidentified body in California. Before the interview truly began, John confessed that his sister had been missing since 1968. When was she found? He asked, explaining that his half-sister, Cheryl Anne McMillan, vanished decades ago. John deeply loved Cheryl, remembering her as a doting figure who took him everywhere. He still carried the warmth of her love and the feeling of being protected. Though born of Geraldine's first marriage, she was adopted by her mother's second husband. After her 1964 graduation, she moved to Los Angeles and eventually cut all ties. A private investigator located her once, but she demanded to be left in peace. "Tell them I am fine," she insisted, though she had fallen into a dangerous lifestyle. Cheryl was scheduled to serve as maid of honor for her cousin on June 22nd. Her cousin, Ellen Saval, later recounted that Cheryl failed to appear for the gown fitting. A brief phone call promised she would attend the ceremony, but she never arrived. Tragically, investigators had already recovered her remains weeks before the wedding day. John noted they filed a missing persons report, yet 2016, police found no record. We were looking for the living, not the dead. Rita then brought these leads to authorities. On September 22, 2016, the Griffith Park body was identified as Cheryl McMillan. While her exact cause of death remains a mystery, the family long suspected foul play. Relatives feared her disappearance was a direct result of her involvement in the drug trade. Ellen revealed that her cousin once admitted to smuggling narcotics across the Mexican border. "I assume she was killed or imprisoned during a deal gone wrong," Ellen confessed. John Manzo Jr. finds solace knowing Cheryl kept their grandmother's ring despite her desperate circumstances. These are the grim facts. Please share your theories and reactions in the comments below. Support the channel by liking and subscribing. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and I will see you next time. The stories of the lost are never just files in a cabinet. They are heartbeats that went silent too soon, leaving echoes that haunt the living for decades. These cases, Donnie, Crystal, and Cheryl, remind us that justice isn't always found in a courtroom. Sometimes it is forged by the relentless spirit of a mother in the digital shadows, the steady eye of a drone over a murky pond, or the quiet click of a genealogy link that finally gives a nameless daughter her identity back. The profound lesson here is that no one is truly forgotten as long as someone is still looking. In our fast-paced digital world, we hold a collective power to be the light in the dark. But these mysteries also serve as a somber warning about the fragility of life and the weight of our choices. They reveal the devastating ripples of violence and the silent burdens that lead people into the night. We must remember that every Jane Doe was once a sister, a mother, or a friend. Let these stories inspire us to stay vigilant, to use technology for truth, and to never let a soul become a mere statistic, because every person deserves to have their name spoken, and every family deserves to bring their loved ones home.